Live and welcome everyone to the Premier League Forum. We have not met for a while. Obviously, a lot has been happening across the globe, whether if you're in the US, you're in India, you're in Brazil, you're in the UK, and I'm always pointing the spot where COVID is rampant. You would have known what is happening. And as we relate to football, which we call here in the States soccer, the season is going as I anticipated. And we'll talk a lot about that tonight. So welcome to the panel. As I said, we haven't in a while. Tony, aka Mr. Pugilist Sport, how are you doing? What's happening?
I'm all good, buddy. I'm all good. Yeah, keeping safe. I have a number of people around me who, like Apollo, have contracted the coronavirus. So, it's a very important time, I believe, right now. With the rollout of the vaccine and things that are going on, the new strain that we have here in the UK. So it's very important that, we keep our heads up and try to help and assist those around us who, may not be so able to resist the urges to try and get out. So, yeah, holding in there.
And Andy, how are you doing? How's it been going? How's your week been?
Yeah, not bad. It was my first week back at work post-COVID. So, I had it in New Year. So I went back to work the previous week, but they sent me home again because I wasn't well at work. So I went back this week eventually, and I've managed to get through first week back. All right. So
I'll be remiss in and say Apollo. We know Apollo normally moderates this forum, but it's been out for a while now. He had a severe case of this virus, which doesn't want to seem to go away, but he's making his recovery and hopefully he'll be back up and well soon. And seems like Tony's the only one who somehow has that resistance. He probably has that built-in immune system. I actually know someone who has a built-in immune system who his wife had the virus and they sleep in the same bed. He never got the virus.
Wow.
So I think that's kind of hard to achieve, but some people are able to maybe have something in their DNA.
That's what's happening. It's really strange how, groups are meeting and then one person out of, 15, 20, whatever is getting it. And you're like, how did that one person get it, but everybody else was immune to it?
This second or third wave, whatever you want to call it, it seems to be spreading much, much quicker this time. That I know far more people that have been affected by it. I'd just like to give a shout out to somebody I used to play with, a goalkeeper called Terry Azar. He passed away from COVID last week, sadly. He was only 40 years old.
Wow.
But to those people that knew Terry, big respect to him and all the best to his wife and kids. Struggle.
Condolences to his family, and we're seeing this pervasive across. We all know someone, at least I think we all know someone who have either had the virus, had difficulties, or have passed away from the virus, and it's not seem to be going away. And I'm not sure that the people who rely upon our governments have made a strategic decision. They remind me of the hierarchy for Arsenal. They seem to continue to make bad decisions as we get to a good place. But we'll get to the football.
The one thing I will say about the Arsenal hierarchy is they clearly have a vision and are sticking with it. It clearly seems that the idea of Edu and everyone, and they've got the idea that Arteta is the man, that they just have to back him and stick with him through thick and thin, and eventually he'll get it right. They seem to have made that decision. So it will be interesting to see how it pans out.
Well, the league is, you and I have talked about it before, Andy, and to a lesser extent, Tony, around how competitive the season is going to be. Yeah. And it will save some coaches' jobs or managers' jobs, because if you're an owner, you realize that it's a very topsy-turvy season, and therefore you're going to have periods of time when you're not doing well, and we're in the doldrums. And tomorrow you may be pushing for the top four, as we're seeing with a number of teams. Look at Liverpool. I mean, no one could anticipate, given their performance last season, regardless of COVID, that one, they would have the injuries they've had, because they've never had injuries in the years that they were successful in both in the Champions League and the Premier League. And secondly, that they would be having won in the last 5 games and lost, a few of the last 5. So if these things are unanticipated, but should be anticipated given the parity we now have in the league. So I guess we'll talk about the results from this week. And obviously, when we first started having these discussions, there were mainly weekend games. Now the games are almost every single day, which is good for those who are football fanatics like myself. But I'm not in the UK like you guys are, so I struggle to watch some of the games during the week. I have to record them and watch them later.
Not great for the wives.
No, not definitely not great for the wives.
It's all right.
It's very, very difficult for them. Yeah. It is hard, especially if you love multiple sports. So forget about just watching football. If you're a basketball fan like I am, or an NFL fan, it even exacerbates the problem. So, Tony, what do you think thought of the results this week, especially yesterday's results?
Well, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. We are in the middle of seeing some absolutely amazing results from the bottom to the top. We're seeing teams picking up points where we didn't think they were, feasible. We're seeing, the whole home dynamic where you thought you're impregnable at home. That's no longer the case, and it's just throwing us into a situation where, you can think you might have an edge in a particular fixture, but you just don't know.
Right.
I don't see anybody in the league right now whose play tells me that they will dictate the rest of this league for the remaining 5 months or 4 months.
I see Apollo has a couple. This must be Apollo because he mentions his wife is a Green Bay fan and we're watching championship this week. I think they're playing Tampa. And then he's saying here, how about those Jazz? It is Apollo. Second best in the NBA. So Andy, you don't want to hear about these things. I know you're not an NFL fan. That's why.
It's not that I'm not a fan. It's just that I've never really watched American football, so I wouldn't really understand the tactics or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's. I mean, I said to you guys, I'm educated, Andy. All right, mate. For me, I said to you guys when you lot were all panicking about Arsenal a while ago, I said you'll still finish in the top half. And there you are. You're back. You're back there again. You'll be fine. But because you've got a great clutch of youngsters, I think you're still missing some experience, know-how to get those youngsters to gel better. But you have got some fabulous youngsters at the club. So in time, I think you'll be all right. But in terms of the rest of it. I just think that it's a very strange thing. I mean, Man United and Man City, for me, as you know, I tipped Man City at the beginning of the season, and I think that they are looking very, very strong. They've got the best defence in the league, which is something that hasn't been associated with them particularly before. Diaz, I mean, they've hardly conceded a goal since Diaz has been playing. So it's been, and his partnership with Stones looks to be very fruitful at the moment. Their issue is going to be is Aguero's just tested positive today or yesterday, and De Bruyne is now out for 4 to 6 weeks with a hamstring injury, so that will affect them too. So it'll be interesting to see how they cope without both of those. I mean, they've obviously not had Aguero for a while, but and United are showing. United just seem to be finding a way of getting over the line. I mean, Fulham played very well the other night against United, but United are finding a way of getting over the line, which is what Liverpool were doing early in the season and what Tottenham were doing earlier in the season. And now Tottenham has slipped up, Liverpool has slipped up, and now City and United are having their time. Leicester are sort of doing really well, but Everton are still there with a couple of games in hand. So I mean, there's lots of and Villa. I mean, Villa sort of were probably. I mean, City deserved to beat Villa the other night, but the goal, the offside goal, was just unbelievable. I can't get my head around it. How he's not offside. I know the rule supposedly finds a way for him not to be offside, but it's just complete nonsense. The guy's 10 yards offside, comes back, takes the ball off the defender, gives it to the guy that scores the goal. How's he not offside? It's nonsense.
I say one thing, Andy. When you're playing football, be aware. Know where you are in the field. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That's where you should be glancing. You should be know where you are, and I agree with you.
Mings should
know,
Mings undoubtedly Mings should be aware to know that the guy's behind him. But I think under what most of us would have believed the rule was before they've wheeled out this rule, whatever it was, 17, 8.5, whatever they wheeled out this week, most of us would have said the guy was offside. So you're probably not that bothered about someone coming from 10 yards behind you. I mean, it's a nonsense rule, but hey, it is what it is. And the penalty, again, for me, the ball's been headed at him from like a foot away. Where do you want him to, put he's not even really looking at it. Where do you want him to put his arm? I don't know. But to me, again, it's another nonsense decision. But to be fair, City deserved to win the game. But I thought Villa gave a good account of themselves. But
I think someone mentioned, I think Schoolkay mentioned that Andy has more faith in Arsenal than Arsenal fans. That's normally the case, Schoolkay. Normally, that's normally the case. You probably, outsiders will see things a little bit differently, other than those who are close to their teams. I would say, though, that there are a lot of fans in the UK, unlike here in the US, where we're familiar with VAR in its concept, meaning video replay or instant replay, and are very averse to VAR. It's very mixed there. But what VAR is pointing out, or what these things are pointing out, is the fallacy in some of the rules. So this whole view, it's not the technology, it's the rules.
I agree with you. It's not the technology. The technology is there to assist the people implementing the rules to make the decisions. And it's not the technology, it's the problem. It's how the rules have been changed and how they're implementing the rules based on the technology they're seeing. That's what is wrong, and that's what needs to get sorted out. I don't think it's the technology itself. I think it's the way it's being interpreted that's the problem.
Yeah, I think, I'll give an example, Tony, where someone says, well, he's only 1 centimeter offside. And I would say to the person, well, what criteria do you use? Is it supposed to be 1 inch? Is it supposed to be a foot? Is it supposed to be 20 feet? What's the criteria you want to use about offside? You can do anything you want. So if you made a foot, then I have to measure that foot. And if I'm 1 inch over the foot or 1 centimeter over the foot, how does that work?
Yeah.
You got to have some rules. Yeah. Buy into the rules. This is what the rules are. Play within the rules. Sorry, Tony, you're going to say.
Yeah, because and Apollo is just posted up in the group that VAR is working perfectly. It's the people behind the video, and it was heightened again last week in the American football divisional game playoff games when the Browns played the Chiefs, and the player goes in for the touchdown and he's got the ball and he gets speared out by the Chiefs defender, and the video clearly shows the guy hits him helmet to helmet, and you're like, that's spearing. That's got to be. And I couldn't understand, even though I wanted the Chiefs to win, I couldn't understand how you don't see that. So quite clearly, if I can see, and I'm not the trained official, but we as casual fans of the game can see some of these inconsistencies on a regular basis. It makes you so much more in tune with why are they getting it wrong so consistently?
So I would say this. Here's what one should understand, which is I'm a referee in the field. I know the rules, right? I'm looking at a situation. I don't have video cameras and a billion people watching the thing, and each person looking for some element of it that may be different from what the rules suggest is, or be different from what I'm seeing. I'm seeing it spontaneously. Now, I agree with you. Video replay also has a hindsight view. But think about it this way, which is they're under pressure to get the decision down to the ref as quickly as possible. So they're reviewing it for all these elements that may occur, things that may occur, which suggest a foul or something different from what it should have been. But they don't have what we have, which is time, and be relaxed and say, no, let me look at it from all different angles and then make an informed decision.
Well, but some of the decisions they're taking some of them have been taking 2.5, 3 minutes to make the decision. They've had plenty of time.
No. But think about but guys, think about it. We complain about that. So even though it may take 2 to 3 minutes to do it, they feel the pressure, but they're realizing, you know what? I really have to get this. Here's the struggle: getting it right and doing it timely. And the two sometimes don't work in conjunction, right? They are not. Think about it this way, Tony. On that situation where you mentioned, there's an NFL incident, Andy. You can't use your helmet to tackle someone. Right?
I got the idea of what Tony was explaining.
Right. So here's what happened though. The referee's probably looking at the touchdown, and then the ball crossed the line and went out of bounds, not necessarily looking at the tackle itself, and then the tackle may have created a foul that then prevent the turn back, because it's a touchback, from occurring. He's focused on one thing when he should be looking at it holistically. Think about him having enough time to think about, did the person catch the ball in the first place? Did I hit him? Did I hit him with my helmet? The ball went out of bounds. Is it a touchback? Is it a touchdown? Did he get over the line timely? We're talking about 6 different things I just conjure a while ago, I come up with. And it could be more things you think about. So it's the pressure of the moment. And people in the booth are feeling the same pressure as the referee. Because they know Sunday morning quarterbacks like us are going to criticize them to say, how could you miss that? How could you make that mistake? The difference is cameras have changed the world fundamentally, whether it's in terms of police brutality, or you know what, you're speeding too fast, or you get a ticket because there's no cop around, but the camera is taking you. They are changing how we behave and how we assess things. And the hindsight view that we now have today, which was only in the video booth, where the announcers or the television studio would tell us, we all now will see it, and even the announcers get it wrong sometimes. You can see that. The announcers get it right because they're not Andy, they're not Tony, they're not Bertram, all looking at it and all having a different view. It's like having all this intellectual capital around the world assessing something. You know, you're always going to see it differently. So, questions for you guys. Go ahead, Andy.
What's concerning me about VAR, though, is although I think the technology is useful in some instances, I think it's, in some cases, it's being used when it's unnecessary. That I think they're trying to decide too many things, maybe, with VAR. Secondly, I think that they're trying to decide things. I think they've got an issue with the offside with VAR, because my issue with VAR and offside is, in all the things that you can be definitive about, great, use VAR. But in things that are still objective, I don't think VAR should be being used, because what's going on is VAR can draw a line as to where 2 players are, an attacker and a defender are, at a certain moment in time, but they have already admitted they cannot be sure to the precise millisecond as to when the ball was released. They can't draw the line up to the attacker and the defender at the same millisecond as when the ball is released from the player's foot. And how do you measure when the ball's released? Is it when he goes to strike it? Is it when he actually strikes it? Is it when it's just left his foot? Where, at what point? Because you only need a split second, and the difference between the defender going that way and the attacker going that way changes everything. So, to me, until they can be precise with when the ball leaves the player's foot at the same time as they draw the line, I'm not sure these lines are very much use at all.
So here's what's interesting about that, Andy. So before, we had no VAR, and we were all beholden to some linesman put his flag up when you're offside. And we really ever query about when the ball left the foot versus when he was in front of the defender. But now, because we have more preciseness, we're challenging that. So here's my solution I always said, which is, I talk to my staff about this sometimes, which is, you're going to come to me with a problem, tell me the solution. Give me a solution. Give me an avenue to go. If you can't give me a solution. Okay, what's the solution?
I'll give you a solution. I've said, certainly during my playing days, it's going back a while, but the best, in my opinion, and all right, maybe as a striker you would think this, but for me, the best one was clear daylight. Because when there was clear daylight, the decision had to be made. It isn't, is your armpit hair offside, you know, or the width of your t-shirt, or is it on the line of your shoulder, or is it on your big toe? Basically, the premise should be, in my opinion, is your body in front or behind? And if it's clear daylight, then you're offside.
So, so Tony, what's your view? I'll come with my perspective. What's your view, Tony?
I'm totally in agreement with Andy. I believe clear daylight was the easiest to to view because you could clearly show a gap between the last man and the attacking striker.
Right. So Tony and Andy say
and the benefit of the doubt went with the attacker.
Yeah. So Tony and Andy haven't solved the problem. Because here's the problem. When was the ball passed, Andy? When was the kick to see that clear daylight? When was that pass made? Can you align the exact time of the pass with the exact daylight to then definitively say, yes, it's clear daylight? Secondly, so now my defenders can't play up. They can't force you to go offside because I'm not sure. I got to make sure it's clear daylight between me and that person. So I can't play the offside trap I used to play. Do I then play deep? Does that change the game fundamentally how we play?
By the way, just to answer 8018, I've had COVID since then.
So 801 is saying Andy doesn't look as confident as before when Spurs were on top. So we'll get to that actually, which is we'll touch upon that, which is when we last met Andy, Spurs were doing really well, right? Last time we convened, they were doing really well. Not only Spurs, Liverpool were doing really well, Spurs doing well, Man U not as well. Leicester's always been up there or somewhere around there. Everton was doing really well, that's still up there. We have seen some changes at the top. So at this point in time, what is your I'll have you talk about Spurs, which is where do you see Spurs going? Are you going to win the league? Are you going to make top 4? How are you now? How confident are you about how they're going?
I'm unusual for a Spurs fan, but I'm confident we will make top 4. I'm confident we'll make top 4. I believe that we could challenge for the title in this topsy-turvy season. I don't believe we're that far off. I don't see any other teams that are that much better than us. I suspect we will fall short, but I am confident we will make the top 4. Yes.
So if you suspect you're fall short, you're not as confident as you're articulating then. Because you should be unequivocal. I'm confident we're going to make top 4. We won't fall short.
I'm equivocal, and I believe we will make the top 4. I am less confident that we will get over the line to win the league. I'm being clear. I think we will finish 2nd or 3rd. That's what I believe.
So who are your top 4 then?
Well, my all the way through, I originally said City, Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea. That was my original top 4. Top 4. Right. I now say City, Spurs, Man United, Liverpool.
Okay.
I'd now say that I think Man United will probably make the top 4 in place of Chelsea.
So this must be Apollo. If only Mourinho accepts they are capable and leave the bus at Victoria Station. Imagine if Spurs were more adventurous. It is entirely possible with the way season unfolding.
We played all right at Sheffield United on Sunday, but it was Sheffield United. I'm not happy with the way we play, but you can't argue generally with 3 defeats in 20 odd fixtures that we've had. I mean, in terms statistically, we're much better under Mourinho than we have been. But and yes, we're getting more results. But we should be clear at the top of the table. We've thrown 10 points away from winning positions in the last 10 minutes of football matches. 5 times we've drawn this season, leading going into the last 15 minutes. And not against the top sides. We're talking Fulham, West Ham, Newcastle, Wolves, Palace. These are all mid-table, bottom half of the table sides. We've thrown away 10 points. We'd be 3-4 points clear at the top if we hadn't done that. And I know lots of teams can say that, but we've only been behind on 3 or 4 occasions this season. So that's what Mourinho brings. He brings stability, and you don't go behind very often, so you don't lose very often. And that's
not his mantra. Is more around when I have a lead, I hold the lead. He hasn't done a good job of that, given his history and given his reputation.
Yeah, I believe that the tactics have been wrong from what I'm watching on the screen. In that too many times we've dropped deep, and I think that's been problematic for us. But according to a few of the players and Mourinho himself, Mourinho is saying that isn't the instructions he's given to the team and that the players have somehow got tight or they've started dropping deep of their own accord in trying to protect the lead. Because Harry Kane almost said it last week that that hasn't been Mourinho's instruction to sit back and play deep. Now, whether I believe that or not, I'm not 100% sure. But they seem to be saying that that's not what Mourinho has been telling them to do. But that is what they have been doing when they've been having too slender leads. I don't mind when it's 2-3-0 particularly, although West Ham still was a disaster. But when it's 1-0, that's not enough. Why we're defending 1-0 at home to Fulham, I mean, it's just balmy. I just don't get it at all.
So Kulke is saying that you won't make top four. I think he has Man City, Man U, Liverpool, and Leicester in his top four. Stylus is saying he has City, Liverpool, Leicester, and United. So there's no.
I tell you what I go with. I go with the experience of managers. I think Mourinho will get us into the top four because of his experience. I think that will, and if it comes close to the end of the season and we're up there, Mourinho's experience could get us over the line. But
yeah, I think his experience is going to get him fired. Tony, your top four? Tony, what's your top four?
Wow, well, jeez. I mean, that's a big question right now with so many teams up and down. But I have to look at teams that don't lose games, and that basically boils down to Man United, Man City, Liverpool, and Tottenham. You know,
so I've said that's my top four.
Leicester have lost 5 games. They just haven't drawn a lot of games, so they're beatable. The rest of the teams have lost only a maximum of 3 games between them 4 teams that I mentioned. How they're going to end up, heaven knows. Obviously, I pray it's not Tottenham, and but yeah, and I wouldn't be best pleased if Man United win. So I'm probably going to go with City, Liverpool, Spurs, United.
City, Liverpool, Spurs. You have Spurs in your top four. So I believe, I give my perspective.
There's only 4 teams that have lost 3 games or less. Man City have lost 2. The other 3 have lost 3. Everybody else has lost 5 or more games. So a team that can defend and not lose games, for me, that's a team that's got more chance of sustaining a championship sort of challenge than ones that are losing, have lost 5 games already.
Yeah, so I don't use losses.
There's 5 teams that have lost 5 games already this season.
Yeah, I don't use losses as a criteria to determine who's going to make top 4. And here's the rationale. So if I play 3 games and I win 2 and I lose 1, I have 6 points. If I draw 3, I have 3 points. That means 3 points is 2 losses in a 3-game set. So losses to me are not the criteria to be used to judge where I'm going to finish. When I look at the table, I see 9 teams that can make top 4. I don't think Southampton will. I just don't think they have a big enough squad to do so. But I see what Arteta is doing, Arsenal. I think Chelsea become better in the second half when they get rid of Lampard, frankly. Everton still have a couple of games in hand. They're going to be there. Even though I think they set themselves short with some of their loans. I think they made some bad decisions. Then people like Theo goes on loans. They don't have enough backups. But Leicester, as a very good team, man for man, as good as most of the teams in the Premier League. We look at their team.
But Vardy's out for 3 or 4 weeks now, 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, that's the problem. They didn't get a centre forward backup. Corey Inachi is not good enough to be Vardy's replacement. But people like Madison still scoring goals. You know, what's his name that played on the left who wasn't scoring goals at all? Remember, Iwobi is now scoring. What's the kid name that now plays for England? He's on the left side.
I think Leicester are looking at the Odsonne Edouard from Celtic, apparently.
They're looking at players, and you know what? I've said to people, we should emulate Leicester's model, just how you manage a club.
Leicester are looking at Ericsson as well from Spurs.
They can't pay the $300,000 per week.
No, they won't pay that wage.
No. So look, I don't have a. I asked the question. I'm struggling with the top 4. I don't think Tottenham will make top 4. I don't think Tottenham's the way they play is the reason why they're always in that shape. I think it's their ball possession ability. So Kane and Son are very good up top. Bergwijn, the jury's out on Bergwijn. But look in the middle of the pack, Sissoko and Højbjerg, they're not the best in terms of holding the ball. They can't keep possession as well as they need to. So when they played us and everyone said Mourinho was brilliant, I sat back and said, no, I don't think that was the case. You don't let anybody dominate that way unless you're playing against Barca. There's very few teams that can dominate it that way. Or Barca with Iniesta. Most times that's not the case. I think the problem was they couldn't keep possession of the ball. And Arsenal did a great job of doing that. And Arsenal did against Man U also. Because when people say, well, Man U played against us, if Man U had beaten us, they'd have said the same thing, which is Man U played, possum, they play counter-attack. No, sometimes teams just dominate you because they can hold onto the ball and you can't. So I think Spurs will struggle to make top four, even with the firepower. Because you know what? I picked them before. I thought Bale would fire. Bale has not fired. I don't know what's the story there.
He's had injury. He's had injury problems, and that's been his problem for the last 3 years. He's barely played at Real Madrid. He was just beginning to find some fitness and played quite well in the first half at Stoke in the quarterfinal of the League Cup, and then he got injured again, and since then he's not played. So he's played about 45 minutes or something. But and so I think Mourinho at the moment doesn't trust him to play. But I still think there's something going on with Spurs with Bale. It's almost like I feel that maybe they're holding him back, that they're trying to maybe get a better deal out of Real Madrid for next season, maybe. And then maybe once Bale's coming towards the end of his contract and we've got him for another year on loan, then maybe he'll explode next season. I don't know. We'll see. But
you can't afford his wages. His wages
we won't pay his wages, but
I know, but they won't give you 2 years in a row.
We don't mind paying a third of his wages, which is what we're doing at the moment.
But even that is a lot. Isn't that 200,000 plus?
But yeah, but I mean, I still think that if he was to fight, he's shown glimpses, but they've been in short glimpses, and so we still need to see a Bale that can do an hour plus of a football match, and we've not yet seen that this season. So we'll have to wait and see. But I still think it's possible.
And who do you think will get relegated? The bottom three. We talked about top four, but relegation is just as important as top four, frankly, for some teams.
The bottom three now, but I could see potentially Fulham. I like the way Parker's got Fulham playing quite well. They've been a bit unlucky, quite frankly, in the last couple of games against Chelsea and Man United. But Fulham have played quite well, and I think they've got a huge game at Brighton next week. They need to win that game at Brighton. I think if they don't win that game at Brighton, I think they're going to find it very, very hard. But it wouldn't surprise me if Brighton got drawn back into it, or that Newcastle could get drawn into it because they're beginning to drop. But Fulham need to win a couple of games to trouble anybody, because at the moment I think there's 5 points I think between Fulham and Brighton. So that's why Fulham need to win that game at Brighton next week. I think if Brighton can avoid defeat, I think they'll probably have enough of a buffer, but we'll see.
Well, we're only halfway through the season, right? Fulham has 12 points, Brighton has 17, and we see Burnley, who's moving up, has 19.
Yeah, I think Burnley will be fine. I think Newcastle could have a problem with all the atmosphere surrounding up there. There's a problem up there.
Yeah, I think 6 teams at the bottom between Newcastle, Burnley, Brighton, Fulham, West Brom, and Sheffield.
I think Burnley are going to be fine. I don't see them having a problem.
Yeah. Tony, what's your bottom three?
It's hard to look outside the three that are there currently. I mean, it is only a 5-point gap, but it could turn into an 8-point gap, as Andy alluded to, with Fulham playing Brighton in their next league fixture, which would become a difficult, get back. To get back the 8 points when you're only picking up the odd draw here, the odd draw there. You need
to be winning football matches, and the teams at the bottom aren't winning enough football matches, basically.
Yeah, I personally don't see Fulham getting out of trouble. I saw a couple of comments saying they think Fulham could get out. I think West Brom have got a better chance of getting out. If I was to pick one of those 3 teams to get out, it would be West Brom. So I'm going to stick with the bottom 3 as it is, which is Fulham, West Brom, and United. But if it was to be anything else, I'd say Fulham, Brighton, and Sheffield, which would mean that West Brom would find an escape route.
I think West Brom to get out, they would need to find a striker in the window. I think West Brom need a striker to get out of there. If they got one, then possibly. It wouldn't surprise me if he went for someone like Troy Deeney or someone like that. He'd be an Allardyce type player, and right. he could do something. But I think they would need to find someone of that type to suit Allardyce's style. Yeah. But I can't see with the strikers they've got there now. I can't see West Brom doing it. Yeah. I think that's what they're missing. But you could say that for a lot of the teams that are down at the bottom, that they need a striker. But
I think we have more separation at the bottom than we have at the top, frankly, to the direction of travel. But I will say this though, we played Fulham in our first game of the season, and they looked like a relegation team.
Yes,
in their last 5 games,
improved a lot.
In their last 5 games, they played some tough teams, and frankly, they shouldn't have lost the other day. The keeper gave that ball up, right? The keeper made a really horrendous play. And they've played well against most of the teams. And Lookman has been exceptional, frankly. Like Lookman playing, he's been exceptional. It shows you sometimes you can't give up on players, right? Left Everton, went to Germany, went back to Everton, went back to Germany. Ended up with Fulham, and he's very difficult to play. And they have other good players. If Cavallero was a better goal scorer, they'd be in a better place, frankly.
Before he went to Everton, and going back 3 years or 3 or 4 years or whatever it was, Spurs really tried hard for Lookman. That we were interested in Lookman, but we didn't get him, and obviously he went to Everton. But he's a decent player.
If you had him, he'd be in the Championship now, because knowing how Spurs is,
he wouldn't have played. Yeah, exactly.
He wouldn't have played. Yeah. He got frustrated because he wants to play. Yeah. So if we transition now to upcoming games this weekend or next week, we have Aston Villa playing Newcastle tomorrow. Predictions in that game?
Villa.
You have Villa too, Tony?
Confident Villa.
All the way Villa.
Confident Villa. I think Villa will take it. What's your score? What score are you predicting?
Is it Newcastle or at Villa?
No, it's at Villa.
It's at Villa.
Villa, I could say 2-3-1.
Okay. And same thing for you, Tony?
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2-0.
Okay. I'll say Villa 3-1. I think Villa will refine some of their form. They've been off a little bit from how well they started, but they have some games in hand too, and they're still up there in a better position than Arsenal, frankly. Crystal Palace, West Ham. Who do you have, Andy?
West Ham are in very good form, but I feel that at some Palace, often when they struggle, they find a performance from somewhere. I think a lot with Palace depends on who they've got available. Do we know if Zaha's fit? Because without Zaha, without Zaha, they miss a lot. But if Zaha's fit, then I'll go for a Palace win.
I mean, even in the game that he did play against us, I didn't think he was at all that much of a threat. I think the whole Zaha thing is falling off the bandwagon. He started off the season on fire, scoring 8 goals in very quick succession. But I think he's flattering to deceive sometimes, Will Zaha. You know, I know how much you love him as a player. And when he's on his game, he is unplayable, you know. But when he doesn't, he's almost like Aubameyang in that he can totally be just ineffective in a game.
He can be anonymous when he's not on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going on a draw with this one because I think West Ham, they'll be up for it. You know, they'll be up for it, and London derby.
Yeah, look, I'm a big Zaha fan, and I've always said this. And people give me a hard time. If you don't rate Zaha, you don't know football. That sounds really bad to say, but I think when I watch a team, when someone says, Andy says, it depends on if Zaha is playing, and Andy is an objective fan who is not a Palace fan. It says something about the player. I don't hear anyone says about Arsenal. If this person is not playing, we probably said about Partey at some point. Or even nowadays, if Bamang is not playing, we'll probably say, yes, it's a good thing. Apart from last weekend. But with Zaha, since it's been a Palace, you hear that all the time. We can't sell him because we can't do without him. We can't sell him, he's going to keep us up. Unless it's Grealish, you rarely hear about another player in the Premier League in terms of their importance to a team. So how can you say that player is not a good player when you see him day in, day out playing, making defenders quake, actually, in a lot of instances. Against us, Tony may say he wasn't as effective, but if you really look at the game, they got more chances than we. They should have beaten us, frankly. The quality of the chance they got compared to us wasn't close. The header that was saved by Leno, which was a great save. The shot that Zaha got off that was blocked by Xhaka. I mean, he played decent enough well in that game because they didn't have the ball. And when you don't have the ball, it becomes challenging. Give an example. Fernandes from Man U. Now, everyone raised about Fernandes and how wonderful and great he is. Watch him against the better teams, but he'll dominate possession. Watch him against Arsenal or against Man City or against Liverpool. How has Man U done against the big teams? They haven't beaten a big team all season. The original top six. They haven't beaten one of them. Because he's not as effective. When he has the ball, he's great. He doesn't play without the ball. So when they're not dominating possession, he doesn't get as much possession to be effective in the game. So you got to be, when you play for a team that's not doing really well, that gets 30% possession, 35%, it's hard if you think about it. So I say all this to say I'm a big Zaha fan. I think when we played against him when Emery was here, that's why Emery wanted him, he beat us by himself, frankly, by himself, totally destroyed us. And he plays with that disdain and that arrogance that you want in a player. And if he came to Arsenal, I would be very, very happy. But I know some Arsenal fans think we should have Pepe instead. And I really want to sell Pepe. But anyway, I'll move on from the Zaha soliloquy by saying that I think West Ham will win. I think West Ham is a very resilient team. Antonio is back, and he's a bulldozer. He just manhandles defenders. And I think they'll do enough to get ahead of Crystal Palace. Even though if Zaha plays and Ezzy play well, I think it'll be a good game.
Souček has been a big plus for West Ham. He's been a big bonus for them. And him and Rice in the middle of the park are a pretty formidable central midfield pairing. Not the most exciting, but very, very strong.
No, they get the job done, right? And they've moved Noble out slowly but surely, have younger legs in the midfield, so they're playing better. What about Newcastle Leeds? So Newcastle playing, 2 games in about 3 days? Newcastle Leeds, that's not a good thing. Andy, what about Newcastle Leeds?
Again, is that a Newcastle?
No.
It's at Newcastle, yes.
Yeah.
Is it?
They listed first, so I think that it would be, yeah.
Yeah, okay. If it's at Newcastle, I know. To be honest, I'll still go with Leeds. I think Newcastle have got a problem at the moment, so I could see Newcastle losing both the next 2 games in quick succession.
Which means they could be in that around that relegation area. Tony?
Yeah, it's difficult to see where Newcastle get a win. Their form just doesn't look like it, but it has to change at some point. It has to change, and you know, it would be a whole lot easier for them if they could have their fans in that stadium. Obviously,
yeah.
I just think I'm gonna pick Newcastle to win this one. I just fancy a shock on this one for some mad reason. I just fancy if you're going to pick a shock,
it wouldn't really be a shock for Newcastle to beat Leeds at home, but in the current circumstances, with the atmosphere surrounding Newcastle at the moment, and the antipathy towards Bruce, then you could at the moment they're struggling.
Yeah, but he doesn't feel that, does he? Because he's got no fans to boo him or anything. The players don't get that, so that helps them. So
Kuka is saying, what's all the hype around Bielsa? Potter outwitted him, and Leeds had no answers. I think Bielsa is a very good manager, a very good coach, because Leeds came from the Championship and competing with the big boys since they've been here. Now, you're gonna have it. You can't have it both ways. They play a very offensive style game. They're gonna get slaughtered sometimes, but they're gonna win more than they lose. And their players look like world beaters sometimes when they're playing, and they're ordinary players, a lot of them. So the system has a lot to do with how well they're doing. But I think when you get better players, and he probably be more cautious in his approach, which is always gung ho. You have to have some mixture. They may do better. But they're doing well enough, frankly, given where they are.
I'm not sure that they'll win more than they lose, but I think that they are. What they've proven is they are capable of winning enough to stay up. I think that they will win. They will win enough games to stay up. I think they've won 6 or 7 games.
They've won 7, lost 9.
Yeah. So I think that they'll win enough games to stay up. They're not drawing a lot of games. They tend to either win or lose depending on how they play, with the odd draw here and there, and so I think that Leeds will be fine to stay up.
Hello, female Man U fan. Not sure who that is. We have a Man U fan in the house. Man, if you're a Man U fan, you should be smiling. You're on top of the league. You beat all the peons. You haven't been beating the better teams, but it doesn't matter. It's what points you have, not who you beat, frankly. And Man U has been doing exceptionally well, and they have a lot of quality, frankly. You can't knock their quality across the pitch. You may question the central part of the defense, but in their midfield, if you're playing both Pogba and Fernandes and they try to fit them in, and you have people like Cavani up top, and Rashford and Martial hasn't fired as well as I thought they should be.
What will be interesting, United, what will be interesting is what would happen if Fernandes picked up an injury for a month or so. That'd be interesting.
I actually think they'd be okay, actually. I know people think that he is the glue that keeps them going, and since he came in, they have uplifted, but I think they have not got enough confidence as a team. And I think Cavani will do better than people probably expected.
I rate Cavani. I think that was a great signing. That was.
Yeah, yeah.
I must admit, I won't say I got it completely wrong, but I didn't think he would be that effective in the Premier League. I did say I didn't think he would get 10 goals. He's still not got there. I'm still not convinced he will get 10 goals. He'll probably get about 8 or 9. He looks like he's an asset to that team, though. That's the difference. That's what's important for Man United. Is when
he brings a wealth of experience.
He plays differently. He plays differently to Martial and Rashford, sufficiently to be able to change a game.
You look at the runs he makes in and around the box to draw players away, to create space for other people. The blindside run, he checks back, he goes to the near post. His movement and his experience could be vital to United on the running. He's his
movement is exceptional, right? It's hard to track him as you're a defender. That's the challenge that you run into. Which he's physical, he's quick, even at 30 plus.
If he gets ahead of you, you're not. If he gets ahead of you, you're not getting in front of him.
Yeah. The Man U female fan says, "Why is your team so bad?" I would say this: my team is on 27 points. I'm pretty comfortable where we are. It's good to be coming from the back because we have won 4 of the last 5. So it's good for me coming from the back and making up versus being in front and then struggling and get all the fan pressure. So we have no expectation. So we'll be okay. I think with Partey back and the youngsters coming through, we'll be okay. Go to the next game, Southampton versus Arsenal. Speak of the devil. Your view, Andy?
With any luck, Southampton. I could see this one being a draw, 1-1.
Okay, interesting. Tony, you're an Arsenal fan.
So basically, this is the Arteta show. This boils down to what Arteta does tomorrow morning and Tuesday evening. He has got to get this right. You know, much though I love the FA Cup, would I forsake a run in the FA Cup by playing weaker players tomorrow morning for a victory on Tuesday, which propels us up the league? Probably yes.
You're playing Southampton tomorrow as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yes, you're playing them twice.
You've got them twice in a few days. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, and both games are away, by the way. So to me, you put all your eggs in one basket. You don't piss around. You make sure you mollycoddle the players that need to be ready for Tuesday's game, where you can afford to play.
Really? Do you think so?
Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking of it. If you were where, say, Everton are,
yeah,
then I would agree with you. But do you? I know you could make Europe, but do you really think you will make Europe this season?
It's definitely not an impossible task. The way teams are dropping. I mean, let's just put it this way: if we win the game against Southampton, I know they've got a game in hand, but
you're above them. I know.
We'd be above them, and we'd be within 3 points of Everton.
Yeah.
So,
but they would have 3 games in hand on you.
They would. Yeah, they would. But
I
again,
think
West Ham would also be, a team we could take out very, very easily, considering we're on the ascendancy. So you kind of look at it and think, do I put my European place in jeopardy by playing a strong team tomorrow morning and then go and draw in the midweek, or do I go
But I always say football revolves a lot around confidence. You've been playing reasonably well recently.
Absolutely.
If you go there tomorrow morning and beat them, does that not give your players a huge lift to go into the game on Tuesday night to say, well, we beat them there on Saturday, why can't we do it on Tuesday?
Yeah. The difference is, do Southampton have the same attitude? Do Southampton come out tomorrow and play all their big boys and then play a weakened team on Tuesday? Or do they come out tomorrow and think, you know what, league position's more important?
But doesn't that statement just tell you what's changed with Arsenal? You've just said to me, are Southampton going to come out tomorrow and play all their big boys against Arsenal? Would you have ever thought of having that sentence a year or two ago?
Yeah.
So I don't have to.
Why do you even care what team Southampton are putting out?
Yeah,
this is Arsenal.
So Andy, I don't care what team Southampton are putting out. Let me just say this, which is, you have a lot of expensive players who've been on the bench. William, Pepe, we brought in Ceballos from loan. We're trying to embed Nketiah. Martinelli has not been playing. We have enough quality on the bench. Willock has shown he can play. Or we have 5 central defenders with people like Chambers who are not back, and Arteta says rearing to go. We have enough quality to play a separate team tomorrow from our Tuesday's team and still compete with Southampton and still be able to beat Southampton. Pepe cost 74 million. Martinelli is supposed to be a budding star. And Nketiah we're encouraged by. We have enough quality. Gabriel hasn't played in the last 3 games, and he's our best defender, is what played the month for 3 of the last 4 months. So why can't we put a team that's separate from the team on Tuesday on the field? I don't understand why we shouldn't. I wouldn't play the same team twice. They're not robots. At some point, even how the games
you don't have to play the same team twice. You should be able to make, with the squad you've got, 4 or 5 changes. So you maybe play 6 of the team twice, but 4 or 5 of them would rotate to keep a bit of freshness.
So let me give you an example, Andy. Kieran Tierney down the left-hand side is integral to Arsenal winning. In any game, in any competition. He has to play tomorrow morning for us to be as attacking as we can possibly be. He then has to replicate that on Tuesday night.
He's a young lad. He shouldn't have a problem with that.
So
he's had injuries last few weeks.
Yes, but
that's a different issue. But
he's the only player you can say that about, right? He's the only place we don't have cover. We have covered the center of the park, midfield and defense. We have covered right back with Soares and with Bellerin. We have cover up top. We don't have a cover at left back. Amen.
Well, yeah, surely Saka can play there if you.
No, you don't. But Saka is the same thing as Tierney. You don't want to burn him out.
Exactly.
I understand that, but it's not like you haven't got someone that can play there.
Can play there. Yes, not
that's the truth, Andy. We don't have a left-footed defender in our squad right now.
No, we don't.
It's a slight. It's unbalanced. It is unbalanced.
Yeah, it's unbalanced. We're looking into Southampton's left back that came from Chelsea. What's his name?
Bertrand.
Ryan Bertrand. But I'm saying, why would Ryan Bertrand want to come to Arsenal and sit on the bench unless he just want a paycheck? I mean, because he's not going to replace Tierney. Because we're saying Tierney is the future. Yeah. So anyway, just like we go for Odegaard and we're saying you should compete with Smith Rowe. Smith Rowe just got into the team. So why didn't we have one competition for Smith Rowe with someone on loan? We're not going to have in 5 months.
I think you did well to get Ryan, the goalkeeper, on loan today. Yes. I think that's quite a good backup for Leno. A bit with Premier League experience. I think that was a good move.
Yeah, and look, the Matt Ryan situation is interesting because we bought a goalkeeper just a few months ago, not too long ago, and realized after 2 games that he's not Premier League standard. What was your scouting process you went through to even make that decision? He's so woefully. He's not even League One. He's not League Two. He's National League, if that much.
Are you talking about Runarsson?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to be fair, he's young. I heard Martin Keown talking on Talk Sport about Runarsson today, and he was saying he hopes that they don't destroy him. Like, he's obviously going to go out on loan somewhere, presumably, but that he's still young. He has room to improve.
So
it's not like he's 30.
Yeah, and he's 25, right? So at 25, I should know if you have ability.
I got the impression that he was younger than that by the way Keown was talking, but yeah.
No, okay. I thought I heard that he's 25. I got to actually check on that. But
I don't think he's 25. I think he's 22.
He's 22?
Then that's still very young for a goalkeeper.
Even if you're 22, the fundamentals should be there to say, you know what, you have the potential to be very good. Goalkeepers mature when they're in their 30s, right? We'd agree.
Yeah, no, you're right.
What they can't cope with.
25, right?
What they can't cope with at that age when they're very young, or a lot of them can't. It's the pressure that affects their decision making. That's what they need the experience for, and that's why goalkeepers tend to come on a bit later and go on longer. They need the experience of making decisions under pressure, because as a goalkeeper, you make a mistake under pressure, the ball's in the back of the net.
So Tony, Andrew says he's 25 years old. I've watched him in a few games. He's Iceland reserve goalkeeper, so he plays at international level. And he was reserve where he was before for Dijon. I'll say this, not to destroy the kid's confidence. I just don't see it.
You may well be right. I've only seen him. Yeah, he had a horrendous game in the game I saw. So I'm not saying that he's brilliant. I'm just saying that Keown, who's obviously Arsenal through and through, was basically saying he hopes they don't destroy his confidence, that perhaps he could go away, get some experience, and come back a better keeper. That's what he was basically saying today. But anyway.
And we all hope that for him, right? We don't want the kid's career to be destroyed. We want him to do well. But I didn't see, my view was on the scouting of the player, which is he's not Premier League ready. Why would you go and get him because he's cheap? That makes no sense. And I'm not sure why you'd bring him in. Then after the kid is confidence when you have to send him out again after 2 games. That's even worse than, you know what, you didn't bring him the first time.
Anyway, we spent the last quarter now talking about Arsenal. Are we going to talk about anyone else?
We'll talk about Spurs. So let's get
Spurs Liverpool. Spurs Liverpool.
What you just said about Runarsson, we did the exact same thing with Saliba.
Yeah. Well, no, we have Chelsea Wolves before we get to Spurs Liverpool, because I'm sure Liverpool's going to win. So what's your view on the Chelsea Wolves game? Chelsea Wolves?
Is Lampard still going to be in charge? But assuming he is, I could see that being a draw. Chelsea Wolves.
Okay. Tony?
I'm going to go Chelsea because they're desperate. I think somehow this whole is Frank Lampard going to get the sack situation must be becoming quite a bit tedious for the players and the club. And I think they have to find a way to win this week, just by any means necessary. So I still think they clearly have the team players. They have enough good players to win that game. They just need to find a system to make it win. So as good as Wolves are,
but they've been saying that for 2 months.
Yeah, they'll find a way. They're going to find a way.
Yeah, they seem to have too many of the same players. It's like you're looking in the mirror. Too many of similar players between Hudson-Odoi and Ziyech, Pulisic. Very similar in terms of build, stature, nature of their game. You got to have diversity in your team on the wings, at least anyway. In the middle of the park, Kante has been injured for the last couple of games. So you don't have that experience there trying to marshal the midfield. And Havertz just doesn't show me enough to say he should be here, frankly. I haven't seen any, people talk about, he make these turns here and there, but that's not the Premier League's not about making a few turns. It's about
he did one immense piece of skill the other night where he was deep in his own half, actually. I mean, it doesn't change everything. Havertz has not been up to standard so far, but I think Havertz is a player. They've just got to find a way of unlocking whatever it is, because the ball came at him quite high and he was like about 35 yards facing his own goal, and he caught it on his chest and he brought it down and he turned and he came out there and he laid the ball up, and it was just an immense piece of skill and class. Now, obviously, for 75 million, you want an awful lot more than that, but it just shows me that the boy is he is a player. He has got the class, because anyone else couldn't have done what he did there. There's a player in there. They've got to unlock it somehow. I don't know how they're going to do it, because they've got to find a position to play him in.
Yeah, I'll just say that I think I saw Traore did something just as impressive against Man City when he brought the ball down. It was kicked 60 yards by the goalkeeper, and De Bruyne may have pulled his hamstring by the same play. But I wouldn't consider Traore to be a world beater. Not to do a comparison, but I'll just say this about Havertz, which is, I'm sure he's a very good player in Germany, but Werner has not done much better, right? I mean, he's come over, he's missed goals a ton. That's what's killing Lampard, which is you spend 220-something million pounds, and the players you thought would come in and be game changers have not been game changers.
Leverkusen saw Chelsea coming with Havertz. Yeah. I mean,
well, let's saw Arsenal come with
to get that much money out of them, they must be laughing all the way to the bank. But
yeah, Lille has that with us actually. Ours was 2 years ago. Chelsea was last year. No, we paid 74 million for Pepe, so we can't be.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Havertz is this year's Pepe.
Yeah. Everton versus Leicester. Who are you picking there?
So we left
Everton.
Yeah, that's you, Andy. We'll go to Tony next.
Everton. If Leicester haven't got Vardy, Everton.
Okay. Tony?
I'm agree. Yeah, I go Everton 2-0.
Okay. And then the game of the week on next Thursday, we're going to stop at this game as the last game for that week. Tottenham versus Liverpool. And I can't watch the game because I'm working, so I have to record the game, which is really making me perturbed.
You better turn all your comments off then.
No. I may be working, but I may click into the forum and say something. Tottenham versus Liverpool. So I see, Andy, that you're picking Tottenham, or is it you're not confident in your team?
I'm actually disappointed that Liverpool have been on such a bad run and not scored for 5 games, because it worries me that at some point they're going to bounce back. And I just need to hope that that's not next Thursday at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Because at some point they've got too many good players to not at some point kick back into gear. Obviously, I hope it's not against us. It could be at United on Sunday in the FA Cup. We'll wait and see whether they decide to field a weakened side in that one, or whether they, because it's United, decide to put out the full strength side and see if they can kick themselves back into gear. But, you know, form wise, currently, last few games, Spurs have been much better. And you'd say, you know, I'd fancy us, but our record against Liverpool is not good. I think we've beaten Liverpool once in all the time Klopp has been there, which was the 4-1 at Wembley when Lovren had a nightmare. So I think that's the only time we've beaten them in 5 years. So we haven't got a great record against them. So I wouldn't surprise me if it was a draw. Obviously, in my opinion, if we have any pretensions of winning the title, we have to win the game. That's my view. We need to win the game if we want to have any chance of winning the title. Otherwise, I can see United and City just getting too far away from us, and obviously Liverpool as well if we don't beat them. So
you are predicting what?
I'm going to predict a Spurs win because I'm a Spurs fan, but my head is telling me draw, but my heart is going Spurs.
Well, I hope you park the bus and they just have fun, because parking the bus with their defense, you should not park the bus. But I'm sure
I hope we have a go at them.
Yeah,
but I guess we won't, because I know Mourinho's style. But I would like to see us have a go and take a team lacking in confidence on. And I don't see why we should fear doing that. But I suspect we'll park the bus and try and catch them on the counter.
Yeah, Tony.
So I'm hoping what Andy has just absolutely just explained so well, that Liverpool find their feet this week and absolutely blow Spurs to smithereen. That's my wish. And it makes you just say, yeah, at some point in time, that front three of Liverpool, I've got to click. They've got to find a way. You know, that goal drought doesn't last forever. You know, it's not going to be, 8-9 games. It's going to be 3 or 4 games, and then boom, somebody's going to pay. So let's hope it's this week. I'm going for Liverpool 3-1.
Liverpool 3-1. Wow. I find it hard to pick this game just because I'm still concerned about Liverpool's center of their park. And Alexander-Arnold has not been playing as well as he did a number of seasons ago. Not sure what's transpiring there. I think Spurs will play well in that game. I love the Son-Kane combination. If they can get possession of the ball, which is Spurs' problem against Liverpool, would be how much possession will they have to be able to get Kane and Son enough touches to be dangerous, right? And who plays on the right? Because I think on the right you do have some deficiency there between Bergwijn and whoever you put on the right has not played as well as you would want, actually.
I think we would want Bergwijn to be playing. We look more dangerous on the counter when Bergwijn plays.
Yeah, that's the concern there. It looked dangerous, not dangerous.
Well,
so he looks really dangerous, but he hasn't scored in Premier League all season, has he?
He did play an exquisite ball through for Tanguy Ndombele's great goal last weekend. It was a fantastic little chipped pass through. So
yeah, and Ndombele is quality. I like Ndombele. I've always liked Ndombele.
He's top class, yeah.
He's quality. Apollo is saying, before everyone goes crazy with joy, can we all just take a moment to thank Burnley for a fantastic victory? Huge accomplishment to end that amazing home run. Yes, I do think, look, it shows where Liverpool is, right? West Brom was there. They're battling West Brom. They couldn't get a result. At some point, as you go through and you're dominant, at some point, the pack is going to catch up in some way, shape, or form. And as I've said before, the league is very, very competitive. Even West Brom, if you can sit deep and hope you get a lucky goal and then you just frustrate them, it does happen. And they've had injuries, right? Because Henderson and Fabinho play in the center. Now they have Matip back. Hope if they get their team aligned the right way with Henderson in the middle, along with some other midfielders who are going to move the ball forward, and if Mane and Salah and Firmino is under a lot of pressure by the Liverpool fans around the fact that he should be dropped, but they don't have a replacement for him because Origi is not the answer. Spurs may have a chance, and they may. I'm going to pick Liverpool to win 2-1. Actually,
Why is Origi not the answer?
What a surprise! Two Arsenal fans predicts Liverpool to win at Spurs.
You know what? As an Arsenal fan, I'm not like most Arsenal fans. I don't hate Spurs. I hate Man U because I hate people who are competitive with me. I didn't even consider Spurs a competition. Now, in the last 3 or 4 years, Spurs have done better, but I never considered Spurs the opponent I should be worried about. Man U was always the party that I hated and still do with venom because I love Spurs. I love someone I can beat up 24/7 and feel happy about myself, make me feel good about myself. Things have been changing, though. The bully's now getting bullied. So good for Spurs. You now have money. You've made more money last year than we did in terms of revenues. Obviously, you're challenged now given the pandemic and the effect on your stadium and gate receipts. But you're coming up, and now we have to take you seriously because for the last 4 years you've done better than we have. But you have not been my enemy, so I don't mind you winning sometimes. I want you to feel good about yourself. So at the end of the day, I do want Liverpool to win.
Thanks for the patronising speech.
I don't love you that much, though. I do want you to lose. I want to finish behind us, and right now where we are, we're progressing. But I hope Spurs. I hope the game draw because I want Liverpool to win because I do expect Arsenal to make top 4, regardless of where we are currently today. Not that we will.
I want something. I want whatever you're on.
It's water. It's water.
Okay.
So we've come to the end of our program, and thanks everyone for watching.
Can I make a confident prediction? Arsenal will not finish in the top 4 this season.
Okay. So can we get some odds on that? Can we say 100 to 1? Can we get some odds on that? Look, the way it looks today, but we're halfway through the season. We've only played 19 games. We still have 19 games to play. If you remember more recently, we were at the bottom of the league almost. We're in 15th place, stuck. Now we have won 4 of the last 5. If we keep our winning streak going, we can never tell. Spurs was way out in front of us and gone. We couldn't see them. With binoculars, we couldn't see them. And now we're seeing them in our sight. You're coming back to us. You're one of those horses who got lame along the way, and you're coming back to us.
If we win our game in hand, it's 9 points still, so I wouldn't get too excited, but yeah.
Well, I mean, Liverpool in that time.
You are?
With that one.
I'd say 3 of our next 5, we've got Liverpool, Chelsea, and City in our next 5.
So we may be tied by then. In fact, I predict we'll be tied by then. We have Man City along the way too, so I can't say that. They're looking pregnant.
We've got Man United.
Our record against the top teams this season is good. We beat City, we beat United, we beat Arsenal, although they're not really a top team this season. We drew at Chelsea. The only one we lost to was the last minute at Anfield, and that we all know that goal shouldn't have stood because Henderson took Dyer out with a rugby tackle, but on the corner. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hate the pity story about Dyer getting injured. Dyer probably should still be banned from going in the stands, but that's another story for another day. Any last words, Andy?
Yeah, come on Spurs.
Yeah, come on Spurs. Hope you lose. Tony, any last words?
No, just keep safe, people. Have a great weekend.
Well, my last would be a couple of things, which is hope we get people vaccinated as quickly as possible because the pandemic is just wreaking havoc across the world. So hopefully that will help. I'm glad that we still have football at this time because you would expect most things are shut down apart from essential services. And frankly, now we're seeing the importance of sports, especially football, for example, in the UK, as to its importance to help people navigate a very, very challenging environment. So everyone, please stay safe. Follow the protocols that is being communicated by your governments or wherever you reside in what part of the world. Please stay safe. And my last point is, please, Liverpool, destroy Spurs. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks, everyone.
See you later, everyone.
Take care, guys.
Right on.
Excellent.